Good morning, everyone. So, announcements first. Midterm, as we talked in the previous lecture, October 19, October 16, I am planning to do a review, so you can plan to be there. And your next assignment, assignment 3, I am going to be talking about that Friday, and it's going to be due in a week. So you have time for that. The idea is that you finish the assignment on time for the review. It could be a good idea, even though you have the full day, October 16, to finish the assignment. And today, when we finish the lecture, it's going to open your quiz number 4. So you have the full day. The quiz is due midnight today. Usually, it should be a quiz during the lecture, during the class. But well, I am opening the link. You can take it anytime today, and I am going to use the lecture to review other things. Good. So please do not forget quiz 4 today. The quiz all about things that we have reviewed in the previous 2 or 3 weeks. I am talking about object-oriented principles. Hopefully you remember abstraction, encapsulation, and so on. Clean coding principles. Hopefully you remember reliability, one of the most important. And hopefully you remember instability and these numbers that we calculate for the classes, the coupling and patterns and the dependency principles. 2 classes, one is more abstract than the other. Which one should be connected with which one? Or instability value for one class, instability value for another. Which one can be connected with the other according with this. Do you remember the pain zone and the useless part? You can review those 4 big topics. I am talking again about the last 2 weeks, a little bit more. Review that, and then you can go and do your quiz. The quiz this time is 40 minutes, so you have more time. But also this time, more or less 15, 14 questions, depending on your quiz. There is a pool of questions. Randomly, you are going to be assigned some of them. So there are 5 points, 10 points questions, depending of the randomness, 15 or 14 questions in 40 minutes. So you have plenty of time. For the quiz, remember, quizzes are open books. So you can open the quiz and you can be using your notes or any other material. There is no problem. The only thing is the time. You have only 40 minutes. Good. Now, what has been done? We're working with patterns. And the idea with the patterns is this, having the Lego blocks. The Lego blocks, talking about your exam, talking about your projects, how to apply these patterns. What happens if we start talking about a project? And basically, in any project, you have a source of information. A source of information that can be a file that you're reading, that can be a connection to a database or information that you're getting from the cloud, a source of data. Doesn't matter the name, some class is going to do that work. Get information for you or create the information for you. This particular element in your programs that is responsible for creating information. Probably this one. Is going to be a class. The class is going to have variables. The variables, one or more, there is no limitation, are going to be the information that you are creating or receiving. And you're going to have methods for getting that information, somehow public method, just because the information is private. So far, it's a trivial class. Finally, if this one is somehow creating the information or receiving the information from some place, you're going to have a method for that, right? So you can think about a program in which you create an object from this class, and you're going to call for sure create information, and that create means whatever, connecting to the cloud, connecting to the database, connecting to the file, or just randomly put something in the variable. It doesn't matter. Create, get, and the information. By now, with the patterns that we have reviewed, I am sure that you can agree with me that if this one, the source of some kind of information for the program, is going to have data, the data of the system, well, this one is needed from other classes. What can you recommend for this class? What should we do with this class if we know that other classes are going to need access to this data, whatever it is? So far, I am sure that you can agree this is an opportunity for using the observer pattern. This class have information, and for sure that one is going to be needed in other parts. We can do several different ways of connecting this class with others, but the standard solution, one that is already proved to work, is to make this one observable. You can create your own class, subject, or even observable, but you're working with Java. I am sure that you're going to choose to use the Java API. So the source and observable, what is the connection that we need to use between those two? If the idea is make the source of the information observable. Well, following the pattern, hopefully you remember what you need to do is inheritance or realization. In particular in Java, observable is a class. So we need to do this. Now, we need to do that. What changes beside the inheritance do we need to do to the class in the source? We do the inheritance, and what else in order to apply the observer? These are obviously questions for your exam, right? So just practicing. Any idea? Notify, yes. Notify method. This one is the one that is going to call the update in other methods, right? So this one is the one that is going to do the notify. Where? Could you agree that I need to call set change? That is the Java standard. And I need to call notify observers. And I need to do that inside of the body of the method that is the one creating the information, the method that is the one getting the information. Every time that this method puts something new in this variable, every time that a change is done in the variable, and it's going to be in that particular place, we call set change, we call notify observers. because I am the one being observed. So I am the one that is going to notify when an information is created, when I update the value of the information. Any other thing that I need to do to this class, the source, to make that one able to connect with others? And hopefully you agree with me, no. Using the pattern, the only thing that you need to do to your class, the one that is creating information or whatever, is add those two methods and add the inheritance. If you have your IDE open right now, what if I asked you in the exam or in the quiz, can you create a class that randomly create one number? That is going to be my information, one number. And the creation is going to be used randomly. Put a value there. Can you create a class that randomly create one number and other classes are going to be able to observe that class? I want a class, the source, that have information, an integer number. And that integer number is a random value. And every time that I call create info put a new random number in that variable and call the observers. There is any difficulty on that? And hopefully the answer is no, too easy. You are asking me to have a variable, a getter, that you already know how to do a getter. And in the create info, the only thing that you are asking me is to make info equal math random, whatever. And then add these two because they are from the pattern. Hopefully that is kind of trivial. Done. Now, what if I want this guy, the source of information, working? I have the main, but I want that one working in one thread, and I want something else happening. I want to implement concurrency. Two things happening at the same time. Makes sense, right? If we're going to be creating information or collecting information, maybe it's a good idea that this one thread, one thing happening in the program, and other things can be happening at the same time. Okay, concurrency. In order to achieve concurrency, we have two options so far that you can show me. We use threads with thread class, runnable interface. You can research that. But so far, we use the timer. We use the timer for our games, right? If we go for the same solution, I mean, we do not need to complicate with socket, with thread yet. Timer. My class with the main. That one, maybe could be a good idea for this one to have one source of information. I don't know yet if it's going to be a black diamond or a white diamond, but it's going to be a diamond. It's going to have the source of information. Now, the next thing is I am going to use a timer. And I am going to use a timer in order to create concurrency. Well, I already know that there is a timer class that probably I want to use. Now, usually in the game that we did before, we use the timer, and we use the timer in order to run several times something that was inside of the class using the timer. Now, what I want to do is to make someone else to use the timer. Someone else. Someone is going to be doing things, maybe updating the source of information. Well, something that I can do with a timer, because it's in the API, is a timer uses a task. There is a timer task class, and the timer is able to execute that task in a period of time that we can specify. Now, that one is a class from the API. What I want to do is to create my own thing, something that is going to be running 2, 3, 5, 10, 100 times per second. What kind of connection can I do between this timer task and my class, the one that I want to run several times per second, the one that I want to make concurrent? Well, if you're telling me that the timer is already all set to run this timer task, maybe something that you can do is to use inheritance, right? If you do inheritance, if you create a child, remember, the child can take the place of the parent, or in any place that you are expecting a parent, you can put a child and it's going to work. So if the timer is working with a timer task according with the API, well, the timer can work with whatever class I create there. The only thing that I need to do is to make that class part of the timer task family. Well, that one is the one that is going to be kind of updating the source of information. Is the one that I am going to make call the create info. Do we remember? Every time that we call create info, you create a new random number, or you do something that is related with the data. And then you call the notification. So if I follow the track, this one is going to be the one calling this one, which could be okay. Now, but this call should be inside of a particular method. Again, one method is going to call another. This one, well, I want this call, create information or get information or whatever, to happen several times in a second. or in a minute, or in an hour, or in a day, whatever. I want this to be running. You know what? Easy. If you have a class and you make that class inherit from timer task, something that you need to do there is to provide a method run. You can put this inside of your method run. How many times the method run is going to be working? As many times as you specify with the timer. Any other thing that you want this class to do? Not really. The only reason for this class is to be calling the source. Whatever name that you want to give to the class, this is going to be the boss, the leader, the master, the one that is there. And the only work that he or she has is to be asking the source of information, more information, more information, more information. And that asking for more information is this calling to create info method. So those two guys are in communication. Well, not really not yet, but at least the timer and the timer task. And again, because this is a child, this connection applies also to the child. Okay, now, so far, the source and the boss kind of make sense. If you read the class diagram, it's like, okay, you know what? The source is observable. Should be creating something important. The boss is inheriting from timer task. That guy is concurrent. That guy is implementing concurrency. Is working alone, doing something, that something is the run several times. Yeah, it's going to be. Now, you are asking, do we have an association between the boss and the source? We're going to have it. There is a connection here. Which kind of connection? We can define association, or we can define aggregation, composition. Let's play in the middle. A boss has a source, and because he or she has a source, well, he or she can be asking the source to do something. That something is creating information. By the way, every single time that you have this connection, the having, there is going to be a pattern that is delegation. If you have something or someone, you can ask that something or someone to do something for you. In this case, the boss has a source of information. The boss can ask that to do something for him or her, like work for me, the delegate. And that is going to be the name of the pattern. Anyway, it's going to be a connection. Now, everything here looks good. Probably I can ask you to program right now the source, and it's going to be 10 to 20 lines. The boss, 5 to 10. And the only thing that is missing is the main. Hopefully, right now, you can figure out that this one, the word, is going to have a method that could be the main, or even better, you can add a constructor. Why the constructor? Well, because in the constructor is the place that everything needs to be constructed. So in the constructor, if you think about the constructor to make this work, Number one, you need an object from every single class. A new source. Yeah. Well, you need that one, the new source, to be somehow related with the boss. Well, we need a new boss. Something that we review in some point. Instead of making the boss do the new for the source, which is not exactly a good idea because we do not have independency of the classes, it is better to do dependency injection using parameters. So parameters, yes, like when you create the boss, you send as a parameter, probably in the constructor, the source that boss is going to use. When you create the boss, you can send as a parameters the employees that class is going to use. And in that point, I am doing the connection between these two. And the connection is going to be, because I am using dependency injection there, well, probably what I am doing there is aggregation. I am doing the aggregation of a source of information in the class or in the object boss connected. Now, something that I'm missing here is the connection with the timer, because this is connected or can be connected, but I need to relate my objects. Well, number one, I need a timer. Just like that. Now, depending on what you do, if I want the source to be aggregation, the only thing that you need to remember is this variable s should be an attribute, and the only thing that I do in the constructor is going to be that, but in the constructor, or the timer can be local, and because it's local, no global, the relationship is use the arrow without the diamond. So I do not have a timer. I am using a timer, local variable, right? So up to you, which one do you want to choose? In general, could be a good idea unless you have a specific necessity. But if we keep these three local, doesn't matter the method, what we can have is use a connection like this. And we have the word using a timer and the word using a source, and obviously the word using a boss. I am using the three of them. And I don't care that they are connected in the same way. I am using them. Now, I create a timer. And the last thing that I need to do is to make this connection between timer and boss. Somehow they are connected. In fact, they are connected with this, but, well, timer. I need to put my timer to work, and there should be a method for that. Shell. And I need to send three arguments. I need to specify, well, the task that is going to be done, like B, the boss, B. And I can use them in that place because I make this guy inherit from this class. So automatically it's part of the family, automatically can become a parameter there. And finally, timing, the initial delay and every period of time that I want this to run, 0, no delay, 1000, every second I want this guy to execute the run, therefore every second create information, therefore every second notify observers. Hopefully, just by following the description and with this extra information here, you can create the 3 classes and having this working. And that was just half an hour. That is 50% of the observer pattern with concurrency. With question in the chat, no arrow from the boss to main. We do not need an arrow from the boss to main. I mean, the boss is not using main. It's the opposite. The main is the one using the boss, right? So far, so good. Any question with this 50% of the problem? Very important, guys. Right now, I am adding the code that you need because we are practicing. But the idea is if you know patterns and you know concurrency and you know programming, the only thing that I need to do as the program manager here is, guys, I need a source of information. And I need that source of information to create data every second. And that data is going to be used by other classes. Therefore, apply the pattern observer. That's it. Concurrency, observer, 3 classes working. Half an hour, and you have the source code. And maybe half an hour because it's the first time that we're doing this. But if not, copy paste from other project that you already have. Maybe you have the template. Good. Okay, so this is good, but this one do not work for anything yet. Could you agree with me that we need to finish the second part? We need the observer. Now, what if I told you that I have another class, and this one is one of the observers, because remember, you can have several. And this one, well, easy. It's going to be a graphical application. That guy, take notes. The only thing that he's going to do to start is observe the source of information. And I want this guy to put the data in a excuse me, nice screen, a window, and in the window, I want to show the data. Because if you notice, everything that we did before do not involve at all showing something to the user. Nothing. This guy, I want this guy to put the information in a window. What can we do? What do we need to do in order to have this class not taker? Get the information and put the information on the screen. Well, there are 2 things that we need to take care of, right? Number 1, if this one is going to be receiving information, well, this one needs to be an observer. Need to be an observer, and that means need to be connected with observer. But observer in Java is not a class, is the interface, which is a good thing. I can show you that with this. Note taker, implement observer. Now, moreover, you're asking me for this guy to put something graphical in the user interface. This guy should be something related with user interfaces. It could be a frame or it could be a panel, if you remember your programs in the previous assignments. Let's use a panel. Wait, if you're going to make that one a panel, you are going to need a frame to put that panel. Well, usually the frame is going to be in the class in which you have the main. So probably what you are asking is to have the main being a frame. And therefore, with that, you can put this guy connected with the main. And again, it's going to be an association or it's going to be an aggregation composition. The three options are possible. You can use a local variable, a global with main, without main. Probably could be a good idea to have that one in particular, since it's the only one connected with the frame. Maybe it could be a good idea to have a composition. I mean, it looks like I need to tell you that that one is very, very important, just because it's the only frame or the only graphical element in the frame. So if I give you a black diamond, I am giving you kind of this hard instruction that that guy should be there because that guy is the one letting the user know what is happening. Anyway, I need source code for this, but I am sure that you can remember. Number one, I need an object. No parameters, really. And the important thing to remember is, well, we need to add that guy to the frame. We call the add method. The connection is done. I have the frame. Now, the observer part. If I am going to implement observer, the only thing that I need to do according with the pattern is this guy should have here a public method, and that public method should be the one that corresponds to the observer. The update, you mentioned it before. Observer, implement observer, observer, a method, update. Now, in particular, the implementation of the observer pattern in Java, the observer pattern in Java give you this update, and this update receive parameters. The important one, the first one, this one receives as a parameter the object that you are observing. Every time that update is called, you receive a notification. This happens every single time that this method is executed. You are notified here, but also you receive as a parameter a reference to this object, the one that is observable. And again, you have the parent, the child can take the place of the parents. Now, you receive more arguments. We don't care really about them. What do we do inside of the update method? Anything in particular? The most important thing inside of that is using the parameter that you receive, O, and getting the information, right? Calling the get method that you define there. You get the information here. Do you remember in the diagram, the observer, 4 classes, 2 inheritance, and 2 associations? Well, this calling to get is your association with the other class. And obviously, observer and observable are connected. You get the information. Now that you get the information here, showing the information on the screen is something that you already know how to do. You can put that information in a label, set text, or you can take that information and draw the string with that. Done. And how many times that one is going to happen? How many times this information is going to be updated? Every single time that the timer calls the source of information, the source of information is going to call the note taker. And the note taker, the only thing that I need to do here is, if this one give me a string, and the string is whatever the source get me here, the only thing that I need to do is set, again, the label or a draw string in some place and put this string on the screen. Probably the only thing that you're going to do in the update, the only thing is maybe having a variable here. This variable could be a string. The only thing that you do here is that string, the variable, let's call it value. And then, in order to keep your code clean, here, inside of update, you call another method. Another method like repaint. And if you call repaint, then you have paint components. And if you have paint components, in the paint component method, you're going to have this draw string, and the string to be drawn is going to be value. And well, you need to provide coordinates. The important thing, guys, just by following what we reviewed before, the connections are automatic. We are not kind of wondering what to connect with what, or we are not creating 100 solutions, use one solution, each of you and my own. There is a recipe. And in 40 minutes, we create this idea of a source of information and a graphical interface connected. My source of information was random numbers, but in a real project, I don't know, connect to the cloud, connect to the internet, read a file, whatever, the database. And the graphical user interface is just drawing a string. The real world, I can have a programmer doing a fancy, nice graphical user interface, plotting things or moving things. One extra element here, and hopefully you have the opportunity to review the slides about Decorator. You know what? Right now, I have working the observer and the data and so on. There is any way that instead of having to decide note taker, it use one class and that one class use print the information like this. Can I apply the decorator pattern and maybe have several different ways to put the information on the screen? Like, you know what? Option number one, just put the number. Well, option number two, can we do something fancy? Fancy, I want the number, yes. But what about if you give me also the average of all the numbers that are coming from the source of information? Well, what about give me the number, but also give me a counter of how many numbers we have received? Well, what about 2 and 3 together? Give me the number, give me the average, and also give me how many numbers we have received. Homework, just think about it. If I want to do this with the note taker, this looks like the decorator pattern. What should I do? How many classes do I need? Which methods do I need in order to have note taker, but also decoration 1 for note taker, decoration 2 for note taker, and then use adding this decoration to my note taker, or this one, or both. And when I run the program, I am going to have this, or this, or this, or all together, depending on how many decorations do I add. Hopefully this makes sense. Any question? Well, the important thing is I do not want to have the 3 places by default, because the common error that we make, guys, is we go with the most complex solution, like the number, the average, and the counter. And then we create a graphical user interface for that. And then in some point, if we do not have the data, or if we do not need the functionality, what we have is this null, for instance. Decoration allows us in real time to have any of those options, and maybe have a graphical user interface in which the user can click in a checkbox. I want that functionality. I want that element on the screen. Select things, select functionalities in real time. Almost every single time that you have a graphical user interface or a functionality in a system in which you can in real time check the box and select something to be enabled or disabled, what is happening in the background is you are doing a decoration. So next lecture, we continue. I want to add decoration here to the note taker. What I am doing is showing you the process, because this is going to be something similar to your next assignment. For the assignment, I am going to share with you the story, and my expectation is that you create the class diagram and obviously the software. Good? Any question? Okay, guys, see you next lecture. Thank you.